Hi, everybody. This is Joseph Vogley of Stokely Films. I'm the co-writer, the director, and the creator of the new slasher sensation Specimen 6, which will be out on digital at the end of this month, June, and it'll be out on DVD very shortly thereafter in July. Thank you for joining us here on this new podcast. My co-host here, who is...
Hello, I'm Mariana Chipolata, and welcome to No Country for Joe and Mariana.
She says it so much better than I could ever say it because she has this lyrical ring to her voice. Those foreign waves just kind of bounce off of her. The boot over there, as we like to call it over here in America, where they have all the wonderful pizza and spaghettis and stuff like that. That is where she hails from, folks. She's a very classy gal, and she's actually like the real star of the show. I'm just here to be kind of like the chattery voice in the background, but she adds the class and the culture. That is for sure. We're over here at No Country for Joe and Mariana, and thank you for joining us today. We got some really great topics, and we got a guest today with us.
Yes, Shauna is gonna help us rank our top 5 kills.
Our top 5
in movies.
Yeah, in movies in general. We're not just talking about horror movies. We're talking about, we got lots of different genres on the list here. Shauna here, you will be able to see in the new Specimen 6 film. She helps me out on the set when I'm making movies, and she's absolutely wonderful when she does that. And she often reminds me when I can't remember things myself, because people that know me know that my memory is not the best, but I do know how to take charge in a dire situation, I think, and hence the reason I make crazy. Okay, well, maybe I don't, but you know what I mean, essentially. So, okay, so our topic today, like Mariana said, is our top 5 kills each. But first, I want to talk about things that we've been watching in general. Mariana, what have you watched recently that you like to tell people about?
So I really want to talk about Odd Noggins.
Oh, I love Odd Noggins. I'm so glad. Look, I'm wearing my Odd Noggins hat.
I know.
Yes. Tell us about Odd Noggins, Mariana. I'm so glad.
So I don't think that I can even give away too much because it's so... It's everything's unexpected, and there is a little self-deprecating humor within it about these types of movies, but I think there's some really cool things about it. First of all, the score, which is done by Joe Sherlock himself. He does so much work on this movie, and he does so much work on his own movies that it's insane that this guy can create such amazing things. And you know, if you want to know more about Joe, check out our last episode with Joe Sherlock. We did an interview with him. It was wonderful, and we kind of talked about Odd Noggins a little bit. What I really liked about it is there's so much detail within it, right? Like, you've got the magazines that they're reading and the movies that they're watching, and it all comes together. The bellygram scenes are super sexy and steamy and wonderful, and all of the actresses and actors in there are phenomenal. But there is one person that I really, really enjoyed, and it was Dale Wilson as Mr. Birch, because he's so robotic, but it's so creepy at the same time, and he does such a great job of doing that, and just the whole movie, I was just like on edge the entire time watching, like, what's gonna happen next? How is this all gonna tie in together? And of course, boobs everywhere, so why not?
And why is there so much yogurt in that film? And what's with the pimento loaf, right?
Right. Yeah, by the way, that the scene at the end where it's just someone making a sandwich, making a pimento loaf sandwich is amazing. It's I don't know why I enjoyed watching that scene so much, but it really it made me laugh.
Actually, like, the first time I watched that movie, it made me really, really want pimento loaf, so I like ran to the store and bought some, and I was like, you know what? I love pimento loaf, and it was great. So I've been kind of hooked ever since.
That movie makes me want beer and bubble baths.
Beer, bubble bath, blood, uh,
Yeah. And I
incredibly.
have a new safety word for the bedroom. It's sweet corn.
Yes.
And if you don't know why, you should watch the movie and find out.
Go on to Vimeo and rent Odd Noggins, or you can go on to skullfaceastronaut.com and go buy your own copy. I, in fact, own a couple copies, and for good reason, because it's one of my favorite films of all time. As you can deduce by the hat, by all the cool posters on my wall and stuff like that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about an indie film that I saw recently called Elliot. It's Elliot's a sci-fi odyssey. It's written and directed and edited by Craig Jacobson. It's such an interesting film. It kind of has this kind of crazy neon, distorted look to it. It's about this guy that's, well, I'm not sure you can call it a guy, but like an alien guy that's out at this, like, I guess it's like a prison base, something out in space. But even then, it's hard to tell. Maybe it's a different dimension. It's such a beautifully made film. It's has a very, you can tell that the director had a very particular vision. It kind of reminds me of some of the classic heavy metal stories in the magazine, and how it was really more, there was a lot of style and there was a story there, but you weren't exactly sure what the story was. So Elliot, there's some really cool kills. There's like some interesting, like, strange monsters in the film. I tried to originally get the Blu-ray, but I couldn't, because it was all sold out. I mean, that's how popular it was over at srscinema.com. I think that's where it was. But I had to buy it on Vim. I bought it. It gave me a choice to either rent it or buy it. But I like to support indie filmmakers, so I bought it directly through Vimeo for like $12 on the digital, 12 or 13 or something. It's totally worth it. Really enjoyed that. Um, See, it's such an odd film that it's really like, it's hard to tell you what the story is about and what's going on, because it kind of blurs the concepts between what is reality and what is non-reality. And there's a lot to do with VR, and he kind of loses himself into this other digital world, and he's really sad about what his real world is. So go watch the trailer for Elliot, a Sci-Fi Odyssey on YouTube. It's really good. Okay, so let's move on. Shauna, have you seen anything recently that you wanted to tell people about that you think was really cool?
I have been a little bit too busy to watch stuff, but I have recently been replaying a game that's been my absolute favorite.
Oh, we're talking about video games. That's cool, because we love to talk about video games over here on the show.
It's called Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. And this one comes with many warnings, not just photosensitive warnings.
Mm-hmm.
They actually did research on schizophrenic patients and talked to doctors and made this game so in depth that if you have different forms of psychosis, you're actually not supposed to play it.
Oh, that's crazy.
And the premise, basically, without giving too much away, is you are traveling as Senua into hell to face off against Hell, or Hela, as she's referred to get your boyfriend's soul back.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, Senua has many different voices in her head, and they'll be all over talking all the time. They even tell you to kill yourself a few times.
Creepy. There's a good game I talked about on a different episode called The Suffering, where it kind of did that too. And you always hear these voices, and it kind of plays with you as the player. Like, you end up getting so involved in the game that you actually kind of lose that sense of reality in itself too. So would you highly recommend this to our watchers?
I would, actually. And I believe
Can you tell us the name again?
it's Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice.
Awesome. And what system is that on?
Yes. So PC, I've seen it on PS4, and I have it on Xbox One.
Okay, so it's on a whole lot of the systems. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's. Okay, guys. So I think I'm going to skip past a little bit. Oh, you know what? I can't skip past it. There's some really good news right now. On net, I just heard that coming out on Netflix, they are rebooting Unsolved Mysteries. And Unsolved Mysteries was one of my favorite shows growing up. I remember it was so creepy. Sometimes they'd have like true crime sort of stuff, but other times they'd have aliens and ghosts and stuff like that. Robert Stack hosted it. It was so good. So Netflix is coming out with that, and it's coming out in July. That's the big news. So I'm gonna not talk about because I really don't know what who's hosting it, what's going on, and stuff like that. I'm excited to go to see it as soon as it comes out. So Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix. Mariana,
Yes, Joe.
I have a question.
What's your question?
What is one of your favorite kills in horror films or any films?
Oh gosh, I would say that one of my favorites, and this is hard because top fives in general are hard to do, right? Like they're your top five. How can you rank your top five? But I would say maybe that on this list, number five is In Death Proof. It's a Quentin Tarantino movie. I don't know if everyone's watched it, but basically Kurt Russell has this car that he's kind of customized to be that the passenger seat and all the other seats except for the driver's seat are still able to withstand some damage, whereas the driver's seat is completely death proof. He still like gets hurt and stuff, but it's death proof. And there's this one scene where he jumps the car over this other car, and in the scene you can see the tires skidding on this woman's face in the back seat of the bottom car, and it's nasty and awesome.
I remember that. I saw that in the theater down in Utah when it came out, and I remember that kill in particular. That's a really good kill.
That is a good kill.
Um,
What about you, Shauna? What's your number one? Or number five, I guess.
My number five is the opening scene from The Ghost Ship. Do you remember that movie?
Yes.
So the scene is the dancing scene where the girl in the blue dress gets invited by the captain to go dancing while they're listening to very classy music. Someone flips the switch, and then all of a sudden the cable starts tightening. And as the cable tightens, something flies off across the ship, and the cable goes through everyone on the dance floor. And then you just see everyone's in shock. And then clothes drop off, and bodies just slide apart, and some guy's crawling across bodies with just his upper torso. Another woman's trying to put her legs back on her body. And then the little girl looks up at the captain, who's just sliced off with the head, and his head just falls off right in front of her.
Gross.
The opening scene.
I love that film. I did see that one in the theater too. That's a really good number five. I guess how do I follow that one? My number five is from the film Jason X. Everybody knows I love the Jason Voorhees films. I don't care whether they're titled Friday the 13th or Jason X or Freddy versus Jason. I just love my Jason. So Jason X has a lot of really, really good kills. Not the one I'm about to talk about, but one of the other ones is really cool. Is Jason walks into this kind of VR room, and the guy has recreated this VR digital thing, made these like big-breasted chicks that are jumping up and down. They're like, hey, let's smoke pot and have premarital sex. And then he kills them, but they're actually just... That wasn't my favorite, though, from that movie. I just wanted to talk about boobs a little bit because I love boobs so much. Okay. But the one that I did want to talk about was this great scene where one of the female characters, is about to get killed by Jason, and Jason is like super Jason at this moment, right? He's got all the nanites. They made him look all cool. A lot of people kind of like crap on that film. I think it's so good. I love all of them. But anyway, he takes her face and then like slams it down in this sink full of like liquid nitrogen, and it freezes her face, and you see that, and it's so cool. Then he pulls it back out, and then he smashes it down on the table, and her face just like splats all over the place, and it's all amazing and frozen and bloody and stuff. That is one of my favorite kills in a horror film. Mariana, back to you.
I'm gonna say my number 4 is in Tucker and Dale versus Evil, when one of the teenagers, so they're doing some chores in the cabin, and one of these teenagers comes by and just like head dives into the wood chipper. And I mean, that's not really him killing him, but it is one of my favorite deaths in a movie.
Yeah, I like that because it's like the guy didn't actually like murder the dude. It was like unintentional, jumped in there. There's a good wood chipper death scene in the movie Fargo, where the one criminal dude takes Steve Buscemi and then throws him into the wood chipper too. There's just something about wood chipper deaths that really kind of like titillates and excites a person, if
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
I really like that he's like trying to get the kid out of there.
He's like,
And
oh,
so it looks like he's shoving him in the further.
pulls him out and it's just the legs. That is so good. Let's see. I think, Shauna, what is your next one?
My number 4 is from the French horror movie High Tension.
Oh, I like that film.
So actually, it's the first kill where the trucker stops by, knifes the father in the head, and then so he goes climbing up the stairway. We're not going to talk about the dog. Nothing happened to the dog. The dog is still fine, I swear. Sad face.
No one
So-
start doing any like Keanu Reeves shit over a dog, please.
Yeah.
The trucker just basically kicks the father's face through the banister, goes back down the stairs, and pushes a dresser and just decapitates the guy. And then all you see is just all the blood and the spurting and the pool of blood, and it's so nice and gory.
I
It's a
love.
great-
Yeah, I
I
love.
love decapitations in general. I don't know why it's my favorite type of kill. It doesn't really make sense because there's so many great ones, but I think decapitations are up there, and that one's really good.
This works, and it's just a beautiful sight. There's this film called Lone Wolf and Cub, where there's this great scene where the main samurai guy ends up cutting the other dude's head off, and it's just spraying and spraying like a ridiculous amount. I don't even think like a body actually sprays like that, but in that film it sprays and sprays and sprays, and the guy's head ends up flying off and rolling down this sand dune, and then it cuts to the POV of the rolling head as it's going down. Right, and it's one of the coolest shots I've ever seen. And then it lands straight forward, and then you can see through, and then you see the guy, and because apparently when you get your head cut off, I don't know how you kind of gauge this, but the scientists say, I guess, that when somebody gets their head cut off, there's so many like milliseconds that a person is still alive that they can see. But how do you figure that out? Because somebody gets their head cut off, you're like, quick,
What can you see?
what's going on? Right? I don't think that can happen. So I don't know how you can figure that out. But anyway, decapitations are great. I appreciate it.
The French really enjoyed it.
The French did. Yeah, there was that whole revolution thing. They're like
Yeah.
all over.
So, Joe, what's your 4th?
Oh, mine. Oh, thank you for asking. My fourth one actually is from an indie film that I really, really enjoy. It just came out on Amazon Prime. I got a chance to see it back at Crypticon a couple of years ago. And it is Joe Sherlock. We talk about it on his show, but it's directed by Tanya Atomic, and it's the really cool film Manos Returns. And there's this, if you've seen the original Manos, The Hands of Fate, you'll know the character of Torgo and all the different brides. And there's this great scene where Torgo is kind of like plays this, he's like this tortured soul of sorts that's stuck in this house. And of course, there's the master that's, anyway, it's a very involved story. But Torgo is this amazing character that keeps being tortured and killed over and over and over by these very beautiful brides who are kind of psychotic, and they wear these dresses. Anyway, there's this point where I'll show you a picture right here. And he drops, he kind of gets overtaken by the brides, and they start stabbing him over and over and over, and then you just see their perspective and the blood spraying all over the place. And I'll tell you, there is nothing quite like very beautiful women being covered in white dresses, being covered in fake blood. It's one of my favorite things in the world to see such a thing. So number 4, Manos returns, Torgo getting stabbed over and over, and then he comes back to life later on for it all to happen all over again. Mariana, could you tell me what is one of your favorite Italian foods that you like to prepare?
My favorite Italian foods that I like to prepare. I would say the Genovese. It's a sauce that's made with so many onions and like just a chunk of beef, and you just let that cook for like 3 hours until the beef is almost like melting, and you put that over, with a little bit of tomato sauce, and you put that over some pasta, and you got yourself the most delicious meal that, in my opinion, that you will ever have.
So people, go out there and look up a good recipe for, what was it called again?
Genovese.
Isn't that so? That's like, we like to bring a little bit of culture in here with our horror films, people. So before you go and you watch one of these films that we're talking about, go make some
Genovese, and I have a recipe from my grandmother.
Oh, and could we share that with them? Like put a little recipe down in the
Yeah,
box?
well, I'll put the recipe down there.
All right, well, we're going to show you this little recipe. I just wanted to like, hey, maybe I'm just getting hungry or something like that.
I think you are.
Mariana, Chipolette,
Yeah.
could you please tell me what your next film is?
Yes, it's Tim Burton's Sweeney Todd. And the kill is, in spoiler alert, in the end, where the old hag comes up to the barber shop and finds Todd in there, and he slices her throat, and it's just a waterfall of blood. And the scene isn't just super cool, because it totally is. It's also very emotional, because by then you've pretty much figured out that, again, spoiler alert, this is Todd's wife that he thought he lost.
Wow.
And so it's a very emotional kill, but also really visually cool.
Yeah. Really cool. I think is it back to me again? I think.
No, it's Shauna.
It's Shauna, yeah. Shauna, what is your next kill?
My next kill comes from an anime this time.
Oh, we haven't had a whole lot of like anime talk on this show. One of these days we're going to have an anime show, Mariana, don't you
Yeah.
agree? Because there's often things that happen in anime that I just recently watched Akira, which is kind of a cyberpunk thing, very interesting film. But really one of the things I love about anime is tentacle porn. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what it is, but there are tentacles and naked women and blood often, and things just kind of get crazy. I mean, that's a whole thing in itself, though. Am I talking about me again? Shauna, please tell us about what your anime kill is.
So this anime is called Another, and it's a very interesting one. I actually, one day when you have 6 spare hours, will have you sit down and binge watch it with me.
Yeah,
There is so many good kills. Not the one that I'm thinking about, but there's a kill where a woman gets squished in an elevator. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But this one is the umbrella scene, where one of the characters in class sees the main character talking to another main character and is frightened by them. So, as she has to go to an emergency, grabs her umbrella and goes running down a different set of stairs than usual. She falls down these stairs, losing grip of her umbrella. Her umbrella clacks down the stairs in front of her and opens up, and she impales herself right on her throat, and it was drawn so well. It just goes straight through, and you see the blood spurting from the back. You get to hear like her last breaths. You can see all the twitching and the blood splatter and oozing everywhere. It was great.
You're so good at describing that, Shauna. Like you really you just put it right in my brain.
I felt it in my throat.
Do a link because it is a very nice kill.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't wait to see that. I'm probably gonna look it up after I'm done here. I want to move on to my kill because sometimes I like to talk about my kills too. I guess.
Sometimes. I guess we'll allow it.
I talk a lot?
Sometimes you just like to talk too, though.
Okay, so I want to talk about. I think we are at my number 3, right?
We're at your number 2.
Yeah. No,
Right.
we're at his number 3.
Oh,
You're
number 3, yes.
And then you're number 2, and yeah.
That makes sense, yeah.
Number 3 is actually it's a spoiler. It's the final kill from Drag Me to Hell. It's kind of like they've talked about it the whole time, right? And it's called in the movie Drag Me to Hell, and it's about this woman that gets cursed by a gypsy, and then all these terrible things happen to her, and she's trying to avoid death, and then finally at the end, sorry, spoiler folks, but it's been out for a while, the gal actually, this hole opens up underneath her, and she gets dragged down to hell by all these hell hands, and she goes down, and it's a really kind of a cool, I'm not usually a big fan of CGI, but they use it. Sam Raimi is the director of it, and he uses it really well in this moment. And so the final kill from Drag Me to Hell. That is my number 3. Mariana!
Yes. What was that?
I have a question.
The sound is cutting out.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, that's good. So my question is, you talked about this delicious food dish that you offered up for everybody. As a good Italian, as it were, don't you need a good wine to go with your dinner?
Yeah.
What wine would you suggest our audience accompany along with this delicious meal that they're going to be preparing shortly thereafter?
Well, it's a Southern meal, so I would say that you should find a wine that was using grapes from Il Vesuvio, from Pompeii.
Oh, that sounds really good.
Yeah.
So like a red wine? Is that a white wine? I don't know what you.
It's mostly red wines that are made, but because there's so much volcanic. There was so much volcanic activity. There was the soil there is so rich, and some of the wine that comes out of there is pretty good.
So now I'm just getting hungrier and hungrier and hungry. Okay, yeah, we were talking about other stuff though, weren't we?
We are. We're talking about kills.
Okay, I'm gonna stop thinking with my stomach and start thinking with my noggin again. Okay, Mariana, what was your next kill?
I'm gonna have to give it to. It's hard because this is where it comes down to The Wire, right?
Mm-hmm.
The death by sleeping bag in Friday the 13th, Part 7, New Blood.
You didn't.
I did, and I bet it's on your list, isn't it?
Really, my number 2. I'll tell you what. I bet mine's actually slightly different than yours. I bet mine is. So you describe yours, and I'll tell you what makes it different. You say it.
Well, I mean, the only way I can describe it is he grabs the person in the sleeping bag and just starts wailing him against this tree. Like he's getting ready to bat for, I don't know baseball, but I'm sure it's some good team that he's ready to bat for.
Yeah, going home, something. Yeah.
Touchdown, sports ball.
Before we go down to Shauna, I'll just say what my number 2 was. It was literally that film. We were on the same on our number 2. Is that crazy? However, mine was the extended scene that you can see on the DVD and in Camp Crystal Lake Memories.
I didn't even know there was an extended scene.
It was. So in the actual movie, you think he's hitting her over and over. In the actual movie, he only hits her once. You just remember him hitting her a lot. In the deleted scene, he wails away like crazy, and it gets bloody, right? But the MPAA, as it were back then, had him cut it down to make it less bloody, I guess.
Palatable for a horror movie?
Right? Yeah, and they were always doing that with Friday the 13th. You can actually go to YouTube and put an extended Friday the 13th
sleeping bag
scene, and you can see that. But that's so crazy. Like we
That
literally.
is nuts.
Okay. Well, that jumps that ahead. Shauna, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is from a movie I'm pretty sure everybody knows,
Mm-hmm.
and that's Final Destination 2.
Oh, I think we were kind of talking about it.
Chock full of amazing death scenes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So this specific scene is the impaled scene
Oh,
where
yeah.
she brought in.
Years since I've seen that. Tell me about it.
This is where one of the girls, Kat Jennings, if I remember right, is being a complete bitch to the firefighters, saving her life from her near accident, and she has this piece of PVC right here next to her head.
Mm.
Well, they're using what I assume is something like the Jaws of Life or a metal chainsaw, and she's just being a complete bitch, asking them, "Can they run the machine quieter?"
Yeah.
But anyways, she goes to lean down to light her cigarette, and he jams the machine right into the vehicle, deploying the airbag, smashing her head back into the pipe, and then it deflates. And all you see is the splatter on the headrest and the pipe coming out of her forehead and just blood. And then it ends with the usual hand drop and loss of the cigarette.
The way you describe murder, it just really gets my heart going and gets my loins growing. It's like this. You're amazing at that, Shauna, and that's why she's on my sets, such as Specimen 6, which will be coming out at the end of June on digital and DVD in July. That is an incredible kill. Mariana, let's go back to you for your number 1.
Number 1, Halloween 4, Michael Myers impales this poor woman with the shotgun.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I love it when we talk
Why
about
not? You know?
so good. All right. So, describe it in a little more detail because I'm almost there, but I'm so close.
Oh, gosh, I'm so bad at describing that. I should just like pay Shauna to do it for me.
Oh,
Basically, basically the gosh, I can't remember her name.
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Woman.
It doesn't matter. The woman is like, she's just like scared, and she does this number. She goes,
Yeah.
and, you know, instead of just shooting her, because why would you do that? He like full on rams into her. Like he meant to do this. This isn't an accident. Like this is happening. You're getting impaled. Take it.
That's a very
Like a
like,
bitch.
phallic thing there too, isn't it?
What was that?
It is very phallic. Do you think it was like intentionally supposed to be like that? Kind of like in the
I
town.
think, yeah.
There's a very phallic kill in that one too. I guess that
I
kind of
think any impaling is phallic in nature.
Slumber Party Massacre has some of my most favorite phallic kills as it were. Okay, Shauna, you're number 1, and we'll start wrapping this up. You go to yours, then we'll go to mine. So what's your number 1, Shauna?
My number 1 is from Hostel 2.
Oh,
The
that's
bathroom scene.
Guy Roth directed.
So it starts with Lorna being hung up by her ankles in a chain, or with a chain, and getting pulled out into a room over a bathtub. And then the men that pulled her out light torches, and for a second there you think that they're going to torch her, but no, they just light candles very romantically around a bathtub. And they leave and turn off the lights, and it comes in where a very nice and attractive woman takes off her robe and her heels and gets into the bathtub, and then grabs a scythe and just slowly starts slicing down upon the body and just starts bathing in the blood and rubbing it all over herself. And we're already fantastic as long as it's the uncensored one. And then she reaches over the side of the bathtub and grabs a smaller scythe and then just slits her neck open and then just sits in the spray, and it's beautiful. It is a beautiful scene.
Love naked women covered in blood. Okay, anyway, back to this. My number 1, and actually, if you would like to see some beautiful women covered in blood in horror film, go watch Specimen 6 as soon as it comes out. because I give it to you in spades, folks. Okay. So my number one before we end all this thing is from the Clive Barker's Hellraiser. So there's this great scene near the end where Frank is like in the body of the other person, and he's going after Christy Cotton, and he thinks that like the Cenobites are on his side, but all of a sudden there's this reverse thing, and the Cenobites end up shooting the Hell Priest, which they call a Pinhead. It shoots out all these like hooks, and they grab into his face like here and here and here, and so like he's all pulled apart like this, right? And then, like, you think that, like, he's going to be really upset about this death, but then he kind of realizes that this is, like, one of those pain for pleasure sort of things, and he's actually winning at the same time. And so right before they pull him all apart, he goes, Jesus wept. And it's one of the coolest scenes in horror films of all time. You can go watch it on YouTube. It's incredible. There's so much blood, guts, gore, and some really lovely ladies in the film Hellraiser. So I recommend watching Hellraiser. So
Hellraiser's a good one.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Shauna. Mariana, do you have anything else that you'd like to say to the folks before we call it a day on this one?
Absolutely. I actually have some video game related news. So a game recently released on Steam. It's a zombie shooter. It's called Infected Maze. And for all of you Nintendo Switch people, it's coming to the Nintendo Switch now. So look out for that. If you're, I know some people just play Nintendo. I know some people are specifically PC gamers. But this one looks like it's going to expand a little bit. So definitely check it out. It's their standard zombie shooter. You're going through creepy houses and you've got a flashlight and you're trying to shoot zombies.
Sounds cool. Too bad I don't own a Nintendo Switch, but I think
it's on Steam.
Oh, okay.
But on headphones.
Okay, I have Steam, so I'll do that. So that's cool. Shauna?
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. You were wonderful. She was so great, like describing all these wonderful kill scenes.
She was.
It's got me really going right now. So I'm thinking about maybe going to make a scene with a magazine real quick here myself, because that's how excited I am about all of these kill scenes in horror films.
I'm enjoying the cat show, honestly.
Oh, that's Callie. She likes to sit with me sometimes and just kind of. If I like bug her a little bit, she just kind of starts making noises. You can make. No, she's gonna be sweet today. Okay. Yeah. Oh, what?
Oh, hi.
All right, everybody. Well, Callie's taking over. Apparently, she wants to be the host today. So we'll talk to you later. Thank you so much for joining us, Mariana. Could you please say something wonderful and inviting to our to the people that are watching, but say it in Italian.
Ok, grazie per essere venuti a vedere il nostro video e ci vediamo la prossima volta.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, folks. Thanks, Shauna. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
Right, bye.
Bye.